Hello and welcome to this COMP3218 game design and development video from the University of Southampton. Once again, we are looking at some more of our students' second pieces of coursework. My name is Tom Bow. I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I'm joined today by
Dan Hobson. I'm a demonstrator on the course.
Fantastic. Dan, could you tell us what we asked the students to do for this coursework?
Yeah, this one's all about interactive narratives. So we want to see work from our students that includes a game with a story element, and the story engine ties those things together, meaning the story impacts the game and the game impacts the story.
Brilliant. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the first game. All right, and our first game of this batch is VitaNovo. So we're having to play this one in the editor because we didn't have a working build for this one, unfortunately, but let's hit play.
Something's happening.
Okay, so we've got a bit of a introductory cutscene. I'm kind of liking the stylistic, we've got like the sort of tip tap typing noise. We've got the sort of classic old school like green terminal color. It's maybe a little bit slow before we get into the game itself.
Yeah, I noted the sound matched up in time with the text scrolling, which was nice.
Yeah, that was nice. Vita, let's just say username Tom. There we go. Log in. Oh, look at that. That's kind of cute.
That does look nice.
I do kind of like these games where it's what's the word? Like the game is you are at a computer. That's,
yes, it's quite meta.
Oh, we got an email. Dear Tom, hey, that's my name. Welcome to VitaNovo Labs, where innovation meets passion. We're absolutely delighted to welcome you to the team. We care deeply about customers' experience, and you're a vital part of that process. Blah, 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 pharmaceuticals, blah, blah, blah. Oh no, more emails are coming in. Read faster, Tom. Principal customer service representative, your role is to look after valued customers, and in turn, a reputation. Due to the efficacy of our drugs, complaints don't come through very frequently. I'm getting the sense that we're going to be playing I can't remember the name of the game, but similar kind of thing. Respond to complaints. Keep all the wheels turning.
Oh, my story tingling senses are going, we work for a company that develops drugs and then people don't complain anymore? There's something potentially happening there. And discovered that a whole bunch of people
respond to
have
emails.
Had bad experiences with our products, and we've got like a hit squad of go and drug them.
Dear Tom, I just couldn't help it. Oh, that's cute. Principal says, always kind. Man, that's very. I needed a boost this afternoon. That's really cheered me up.
Wonderful.
Hey.
There's no conflict arising anywhere in this story that's going to bring it downhill.
Yeah, this is fine. With endless love, Mum. Aw. Oh, and we gave her a staff discount. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't see any way that this is going to come back to bite us. Oh, we've got a £5,000 welcome bonus as well. That's very generous.
Everything seems to be going very well.
This is great. Oh, and here's our first.
I like the attention to detail that all these emails were sent in 1998.
With the aesthetic, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm writing to express my outrage and disappointment with the petroleum jelly I put. Oh no, there are more coming in. My young daughter became violently ill after mistakenly eating the jelly, despite lack of a warning on the label. The negligence is absolutely unacceptable. All I wanted to do was enjoy some wine and watch the chase. So we're going to reply. Do we want to reply rudely? Do we want to reply neutrally? Or do we want to respond empathetically and give compensation?
I feel like we should start with the everything's wonderful and happy and go empathetic and apologise run first.
So let me just type this out nice and quickly. Of course, I just press the button and we're getting. Sincerely regret the labelling did not meet your expectations. Full refund. Discuss compensation for the. That feels maybe a bit overboard, but Hey. I am writing to you because the moisturizer I bought from your company has made my eyes burn so much that I can't see. I applied it yesterday morning. I don't know if you should be moisturizing your eyeballs. This product should come with a huge warning label. All of our products are going to be more warning label than product at this point.
I wanted to point out that there were several typos in that email, but I'm pretty sure they were intentional.
That's because they can't see.
I can't see my computer properly, and I can't type. Which is just
it's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Provide me with the product name and batch number. Have a refund. Have some compensation. This job's easy.
Yeah. I'm going to make a bold assumption and somehow connect the £5,000 bonus we got in the first email to the actions of you offering people compensation money in every opportunity.
Oh, I see. You think it's going to come out of our bonus?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. Shift complete. We had 2 emails to answer today, and that's it. Ooh. I'm reaching out to you as an ally. You deserve to know the truth about VitaNovo Labs. You're in grave danger. Remote work, excellent pay, great. I mean, they do seem great benefits. It's all a facade. Over the past 2 years, I've been uncovering a horrific truth. They're cutting corners, putting harmful substances into their products, and using innocent lives for reckless experimentation. The true goal, to develop something far more sinister. I've tried to warn others, but now you're my last hope. Together we can... Oh, okay. Immediately fallen into a conspiracy rabbit hole. Alright, do we believe Adam?
I kind of want to go the all-in on helping the company route. Like, everything's fine. I'm just doing my desk job. There's no problems anywhere. I refuse to see there's problems anywhere. No, don't tell me there's problems anywhere.
Okay, day 2. I will enjoy telling myself that I'm a good person. So Max has been taking a multivitamin. Everything seems great, but they've got very disturbing side effects. Oh no, was Adam right after all? So they're going bald and turning yellow. Reveal the truth. Okay, so that's interesting. So there's no longer no neutral and yes. There's now no neutral and tell them the truth, even though we don't believe the truth.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going all in on company this time. We are loyal employees of VitaNovo.
Yeah, mindless worker drones.
All right, so we'll do a few more of these, and then we'll start going through our marks criteria. But in fact, let's probably start talking about it now, because I'm really digging like the aesthetic of like little profile picture, like the font all matches really nicely. Even just the sort of like the crunchy like Windows 98 kind of aesthetic is really nice.
So yes, in terms of presentation there for graphics, audio, and information design, it certainly looks beautiful. The 90s aesthetic is really nice. Very minor inconsistencies, like the icons or the user images are much higher resolution than they have any right to be for the 90s.
Yeah.
But like it's very minimal in terms. Broadly, everything else is very consistent and appealing. The audio is very good, also consistent with what do we got here? This is presumably one of our possible endings. It's a little slow, but
it's So on the one hand, yeah, nice sort of not what's the opposite of introductory, extraductory, sort of concluding cutscene. But it is
Yeah,
also it's also very sort of like telling rather than showing or doing, isn't it?
I suppose so. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, in particular, their outro there has here's some stuff that happens on the news, and often you slap that on the front of something that looks like a newspaper or something just to make it feel a little bit more diegetic, a little bit more in the world of the game.
So I think that may have, as you say, been the ending, but because we're playing it in the editor, it may not have properly ended or restarted. So we'll just
possibly restart it.
pop that.
Yeah. I don't want to sidetrack us too much, but I did spot that there was a command prompt, and I would kind of like to see you mess around and see if anything works in the.
So I suspect if we believe Adam, he's going to ask us to go do something, like find some proof or some evidence or something like that. And I'm wondering if that's maybe where more of the gameplay is.
Yeah. So yes, we'll take the investigative journalism playthrough this time. Shall we talk a little bit about information design now that we've seen some parts of it? Do you feel like you've got access to the information you want? This is an interesting question on the basis that most of this game here is about discovering information.
Yeah, I would say so. Ooh, access denied to start with. So even just in terms of like the audio, where we get a sort of nice audio prompt whenever there's a new email, which is kind of nice. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but the pacing does feel a little bit drawn out. Like on the one hand, it's nice that we've got the freedom to sort of read each of these emails, but on a second playthrough, when you just want to get to the sort of decision making, there's a big long introduction before we get to the actual gameplay bit. But yeah, information design.
I'm imagining we're sitting somewhere between good and excellent. Good says professional, complete, and effective. Excellent says impactful, complete, effective, and appealing.
I'm sort of leaning towards excellent, just because, like you say, everything is so consistent beyond the some of these sort of like I think these are maybe Gen AI profile pictures as well.
Yeah, I think so.
But sort of they clash a little bit with the rest of the vibe. But overall, like the styling's really nice. Like the buttons all sort of match up with the aesthetic they're going for. The sound effects are really nice. Like you say, there's more they could do to sort of like make sure that it's more consistent. But I still think that it's actually relatively appealing. And maybe I'm just betraying my nostalgia for like Windows 98. But
no, I agree with you. Hits that excellent for appealing level. Do you think it gets even higher? The prizeworthy category says memorable, complete, effective, and appealing with novel or especially creative elements. Does it reach the level of especially creative?
Ooh, a little bit of a bug there in the. No, I don't think so. I think they're what's the word? Bringing across that sort of sensation of a old school thing, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily novel because they're bringing across something that already exists really well, but they're not sort of doing something particularly new with it. But I think it still hits the excellent very nicely.
Yeah, I agree. So, next on the mark scheme, we've got meaningful play. So as we go through, we're keeping our eyes out for how the mechanics, controls, and bugs behave. I guess saying that we have to run this in the editor says something about potential for some minor bugs, and we've maybe spotted one or two little things. I'm pretty sure there was an email that signed off with Curly Brace's name as opposed to actually inserting your name there. But these are very minor.
Yeah. There you go.
In terms of controls, you just click on stuff.
There's nothing else. In terms of gameplay, though, there's not a huge amount going on. It is just sort of clicking the next button to progress the story to an extent, and then clicking one of 3 buttons to progress the story. I'm hoping that, as we sort of supposed earlier, that Adam is going to ask us to use that console to do something.
Yeah, so the mechanics we have really are click forward, like clicking on the next email in the chain isn't really a mechanic in the sense that it could just be auto presented to you. You're not choosing something there.
So it like when I opened this the first time, I really got the sense that it was going to be sort of like a plate spinning game where, you know, emails are coming in fast and you've got to make decisions fast and you've got to choose the right, ignore this person or listen to them, or even if things are really bad, offer them compensation. But then the amount of compensation you offer is going to impact, like you suggested, you know, your bonus and things like that. So there's definitely a huge variety of mechanics you could implement in this.
Yeah, or fixed budget. You know, you have £100 that you can use to fix all these problems, but everyone's asking for more than that. So how much do you offer to each of the people to make them go away?
Aha, okay, so here we go. This looks like gameplay, though. So we've got a hidden executable that we need to find.
Okay. Yeah, so now we're being pointed to the terminal, which is nice.
So let's see what commands we've got. List. Oh, now I've got to type.
Yeah.
Was it?
Might be capital D or no, open here.
Welcome.exe, Galaxy Intruders. Ooh, that's. And then already forgotten. Was it play? Oh, so it's a. Okay. Going back to the information design. Bit of a shame that it clears all of the history. So we've got execute, not play. Okay, so
and then play is probably for sound files. If we find any
auto-complete stuff, that's execute.
There's a typo there.
Yeah. X. Keeps. There we go. Yeah, it'd be really nice if that auto-completed.
Yep.
But okay, definitely more mechanics than through our first playthrough.
Right. Now, can we scroll back up? Because we certainly need to be able to see some of that.
Unauthorized access. If you're reading this, you have accessed restricted information about Project Xeno. Compound AX17 has a... Ooh. Data is buried in system marked as legacy logistics to avoid scrutiny. Deactivate this program immediately and report to your supervisor. Okay. Not the list.
So do we think that any of those other bits are going to be relevant? Some of these will just be red herrings, I guess.
Oh, hey, that's kind of... So, new windows opening. I suspect they're red herrings.
Yeah.
How do we go? Exit? Is that how we go up? Oh, no, back.
The date makes narrative sense. Just before the new year. I like that.
Yeah. Open. Oh, nothing in music.
Okay.
So it's got to be one of the ones in documents, right?
Yeah.
Hell. So let's open back. So we got open, play, and execute, which feels like they could all be one command, but hey, maybe that's what makes it trickier.
Yeah.
So we've text viewer. Let's just try welcome.exe.
Yeah. Does it imply something weird, like the various files behave differently if you play them versus executing them versus opening them?
I don't know. Deactivate security firewall, but again, nice, nice sort of, what's the word? Effect of, techno babble scrolling up on your DOS prompt.
Yeah.
I need to hang on. I need to go find some sunglasses so that I can say, "I'm in." Although, again, talking about the pacing, it maybe went on for a little bit too long. But hey, we found more stuff to do. So yeah, I was originally going to say this is probably at the pass level because there's few mechanics. Feels like we're sort of bumping up there to at least satisfactory because it's still simpler. We're just interacting with a terminal, but we are sort of getting there. So haven't yet. Good job running the executable. Thanks to you, we can speak freely. He was a good friend of mine. A few months ago, he dropped all contact. again, kind of going back to the presentation, it's kind of nice that they sort of refer to you by the name that you put in. Like, it's a very small touch, but it's a very nice one.
Yeah.
If you enter said code into the terminal, afterward, please search the system. I imagine that was the thing we already found. You might find the unhide command. So do we want to reveal the truth, or maybe not yet? Maybe that will get us in trouble.
Yeah, do we want to potentially poke around a little bit and then reveal the truth?
So what happens if we just ignore the emails and immediately do this, for example?
I guess you have to end up inside one of the directories. Notably, it makes more sense if we have a music folder when there are potentially hidden files. Might be case sensitive. No, we're good.
Interesting. I kind of like
Probably a red herring.
Secret stuff, yeah.
Unless there's some code or something in the first letter of every item on the shopping list spells something. But...
Okay, so the audio keeps playing even after we hit reply. You're right, let's go back. Music.
We presumably have speakers, so we'll get the secret evil plans now.
Hoping we're not going to have to remember this pattern of dots and then transcribe it somehow.
If need be, then I'll do it so you can keep poking the game properly. But I sound vaguely like Morse code, and I'm hoping we don't have to decode it either.
I mean, we do ask for a small game prototype that we can play in about 5 minutes, and putting in hidden Morse code stuff in that is a bold choice.
I'm going to have a little bit look through their notes just in case we need to do any of that. Then I can dodge them and jump to the solution. There's a typo and execute there.
Oh, so there is, thank you. Maybe this was the program you meant?
So that's the one that we saw on the first day.
Yeah, and you did mention that the unhide command would be important, but...
Yeah.
So,
the only thing that was unhidden was...
there's the secret shopping list and the test one. But,
test1.php.
Yeah, have a quick look at their game notes and see if we're on the right track.
Yeah. Okay. These are described as mini games. I think they're not necessarily core to the progression of the main story arc.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, they seem to be, because we're not getting any new emails, and I think we have to do this to progress.
There may be some mini games in addition to a real game mixed in with them. Let's see if I can figure out. From the flowchart they've given, there doesn't seem to be progression locked behind an activity you need to complete. There's specifically the 4 emails, petroleum jelly, moisturizer, multivitamin, and cough medicine. and each are expected to trigger in the right sequence, no matter what you do with the other bits of the game.
I was going to say, if anything, this feels like the sort of minigame bit that we can ignore. But I think, yeah, we've answered all of these, so I'm not sure how we progress right now. Do you have any suggestions?
It seemed weird that we had the open execute and play. I don't know what happens if you try and like open one of the executables or play one of the executables.
So I tried to execute the music file, and it just said, "This isn't an exe. You can't do that." So
yeah, okay.
Let's try play Galaxy. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so it is just type locked.
Open test one. Okie doke. I feel like either playing that music or running that exe should have maybe progressed us, and I wonder if maybe it's a bug that it hasn't.
I'm wondering. It could be that. It could be that. Were we in the email client being prompted with a decision, and then went and did something else without actually resolving the decision?
Yeah, possibly. Although I think we resolved it and then closed it, but maybe I should wait to resolve it fully.
It might actually do the animation for the resolving of it, then update some state variable to indicate that it is ready to move on to the next phase.
Yeah, so we'll try that.
Yeah. But yeah, from what I can tell of their game notes, it doesn't seem to be the case that the things that you do in the terminal are checkpoints. They are merely information that can help you make decisions in the emails.
Okay, so I think we're still on meaningful play at this point. If we overlook this potential bug at the minute, and just sort of look at it in terms of mechanics, it feels like this is probably around a satisfactory. It's still on the simpler side, and there are relatively few mechanics. Maybe we'll unlock some more later and we'll revisit this, but that kind of feels like where it is to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Game world to story. Do actions that we take in the game affect the story? Now, something we often sort of come up against when we're talking about the story engine is how do we draw a line between game and story in very sort of like interactive fiction type games such as this one. So it definitely feels that, you know, running the executable and so on is definitely the game a bit, and the story is effectively the emails that we're getting. For example, these first set of emails, I don't know if choosing anything in there actually affects anything.
No, I think it just populates your name.
What I mean is, for example, I don't know if this choice does anything, and we'll talk about that when we get to agency, because it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
So running the exe, for example, does move us on to the next phase of the story, at least from day 1 to day 2. But
that's true, yeah.
But if we tell Adam that we are going to do that, the game doesn't progress until we've done that anyway. So it's not like the story is changing as a result of our actions in the game world so much as progressing.
Yeah.
Now, story to game, I think if we look at it the other way around, if we make the story choice to help Adam, then we unlock new gameplay. It feels like that way around, it's probably a lot stronger.
Yeah, that's the main thing, right? Like, depending on whether you say, yes, I'm in or no, I'm not to Adam, you do at least get an email that says, I acknowledge that you are in or you're not in. But doesn't really, to what extent does it push us forward?
To what extent does clicking on that dialogue constitute a gameplay versus story?
Yeah,
that's us sort of making a decision about which bit of the story we want to see. It's not a result of us playing the game.
Yeah, we're broadly going to come to the core thing here, that the gameplay is quite minimal, and so both the interactions between the game and the narrative in both directions might be slightly minimal for that reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, story to game world, it unlocks gameplay, right? We didn't have that the ability to use that command prompt at all. There we go.
Yeah, so I suppose there's that one important instance of it. The fact that I was going to say the command prompt doesn't actually do too much. Like most of the command prompt is kind of Easter eggs, but that's not entirely true. There is stuff in the command prompt that does have bearing on the story.
I'm also wondering if maybe it's because we didn't, because we ran the Galaxy Invaders exe first rather than the welcome.exe.
Maybe.
Or maybe it's just because it's a bit of a bug because we're having to play this in the editor.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's a debug pop-up in the bottom left that says ending 3. There you go.
Yeah.
Code planted within the file system. That's what we're looking for. Enter said code into the terminal. Oh.
So it probably is the Morse code thing then.
Or it's something hidden in one of those text. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so we're looking for a secret code to put into the... Okay, that's... Oh, now if we can't find it, it's going to be a bit of a pain. So hopefully they've put something in their game notes to tell us what the secret code is, but we'll see if we can find it.
If I vaguely... I might have memorized it. It might have been dot, 3 dots, 4 dots, which translates ESH.
If that's it, I will be... Oh, again... Bold choice. I feel like I must be just missing something from one of those text documents, but what do you say? ESH.
Not do anything? No, okay. I might have misremembered the Morse code as well, so
Unhide.
I'll reread the game notes because there's not an obvious code on a first scan of it.
Like secret code?
No. Is there anything in the hidden test1.txt?
Which one, sorry? Test one. That was just. Let me.
I've forgotten what was in test1.txt.
It just said failed, but.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the game notes do not include a code unless the code is also encoded in the game notes.
421.
Okay, 421.
4214, I think.
4 dots is H.
4214.
Oh, just in numbers. Yes, okay. Yep. Me overcomplicating things.
Labs exposed, shocking report, dark secrets. Okay, good. We've seen both endings. I feel like now we can progress through this. Victims come forward, devastating stories, protests nationwide, justice. Awesome. Okay. So, on the one hand, I'm kind of disappointed that this isn't revealed over more days and they've made more of this. But on the other hand, small game prototype, right? This is exactly what we asked for, like a vertical slice of a game that could be, what's the word? Expanded upon. So I think they probably did the right move and sort of keep it to like 2 days. I would kind of love to see a game that sort of takes this concept and expands on it and sort of reveals the story over like more days and more mini games.
Yeah.
Because as it is, the gameplay that's there is still, as we've already said, sort of relatively light. So game world to story feels like. So a pass would be sparse or minor examples of where the game world impacts the story. Poor is their support for it, but the game world doesn't really have an impact on the story. And the thing is, the game world makes a story progress, but once we've sort of clicked that "I am going to help you, Adam" button, we can't progress until we do that bit of gameplay. It's not like we can, within the gameplay, choose to do that or choose not to do that. So that kind of feels like game world to story might sort of be on the poor side, maybe between a poor and a pass. But again, the fact that it just makes the story progress would be a bit of a stretch, I think.
Yeah, I guess we kind of needed to have this thing where you could tell Adam that you're going to help him and then continue your regular job and never get around to helping Adam, and that has consequences. The day ends when you've finished some emails and
and again, like there's, on the one hand, they would have had to probably write a whole bunch more emails, and maybe that's why they didn't do this. But if you had emails coming in like fairly constantly and you're having to reply to them in a certain amount of time, or you get fired, so you're having to juggle that and searching through all the things for this evidence, or getting to the end of the day and sort of clocking off and letting Adam do his own thing, then you've got more of that sort of tension, more mechanics that you can sort of build on, and more stuff that you can then put into your story engine to tie it together. Story to game world. So again, the story choice that we make unlocks gameplay, but beyond that, it doesn't change much within the way that we are playing. So again, pass would be sparse or minor examples. Satisfactory would be just some examples of where it impacts the game world. I'm kind of thinking maybe between the two, but again, it feels closer to a pass, if I'm honest, because the choices that we make within the story don't really change the things that are happening in the game.
Yeah.
And again, like that's partly down to just there being a lack of overall mechanics. If they had something where, we make story choices when we're replying to emails, we give everyone compensation, that money comes out of our bonus or our pay packet, and that gives us less money to spend in the shop for upgrades, or again, maybe there's like a kind of like in Papers, Please, how at the end of the day you have to pay for food and rent and medicine for your family. So our mum mentioned that she's needs medicine, like that you could sort of try and sort of work that into sort of mechanics somehow as well, maybe. So it feels like kind of we're at a pass there for that.
Yeah, and for me, the thing here is that doing the mini games is kind of fun and is explicitly not doing your job, when the whole narrative arc here is hey, do you want to not do your job and do something cool and exciting instead? There's quite a strong link there for the potential to really hammer that home. Like, you go play the mini games, you don't answer your emails, now you get called into the boss's office, you're under more scrutiny, it's harder to do the mini games and help Adam, that sort of thing, over a few days, where the more good work you do in the first days, the easier it is to avoid scrutiny in the latter days, or something like this.
Okay, so it feels like maybe sort of at the pass level. Now, agency, that's going to be kind of an interesting. What do you think about the agency within this game?
Feels like there's one important choice.
It does indeed, doesn't it? do we help Adam or not? And that's the big sort of branching point in the story. In fact, I think it's the only branching point in the story, other than actually that's probably not true, because I imagine if we make some of those story choices and what's the word, are very rude or reveal the truth early, and in fact, rather than just sitting with this screen here, I'll boot this up again so we can maybe see those. But they're not interesting choices, right? The interesting choices: do we believe this random conspiracy theorist slash whistleblower, or do we be a good little corporate drone? So that kind of immediately again puts it on the pass, because there are some choices but only a few are interesting. I would say it's actually maybe slightly above a pass, because they do some interesting things in attempting to manage player agency. Like the first set of choices that we have in day one don't really do anything, but they set up kind of the like the world we're in and the things that we're going to be doing, and they give us something to do while sort of drip feeding us some of that narrative that maybe these products aren't all they're cracked up to be. But rather than just saying, here are 16 emails that you have to read before you can get onto the choice, they break it up with these sort of false choices. So I think that does improve it quite a bit. So I would say maybe sort of between a pass and a satisfactory, because we're still not kind of at the realm of lots of interesting choices, but they have made some attempts to manage agency.
Yeah. Looking at their spreadsheet, the consequences of each of the 4 emails about the products basically modifies a hidden counter behind the scenes, how suspicious the company is of you, +1, -1, for the relevant responses in each of those decisions. So it kind of feels like those decisions are 4 duplicates of the same decision, right? Would you like to be suspicious, not suspicious, or neutral, in which case nothing happened?
And okay, and particularly sort of these first set of choices, like why would you click the rude option for any reason? Like unless you're role playing as a customer service representative, but even then, or maybe
so I think
fulfilling that customer service fantasy of telling customers what you really think about them.
Yeah, but like tying in these potential decisions to the gameplay, right? Like if there is this hidden tracker that is the suspicion goes up and down depending on your actions, well, certainly it could be the case that what responses you give to the email have a major impact on that hidden counter, but it might also be the case that the more mini games you play, the more suspicious the company is of you because you're not doing your job properly, right? And then you can play off this trade-off between trying to explore the file system like Adam's asking you to, and trying not to do so that you don't raise suspicion.
Okay. So that will bring us on to the design elements. So starting with the pacing. What do you think about the pacing overall?
I think the start is very good. I think that the sort of second act is a little bit flat, and I think that the third act, or the climactic, which ending we get, is not quite as dramatic as it could be. The good bit there is the first act, where they set you up with, you're a drone, you're getting some emails that say hello, welcome, everything looks like it's going to be fine, and there's the seeds sown for some stuff is going to happen. There's going to be some subterfuge. You're going to get the opportunity to betray the company or something like this. That's a really good, solid start to the pacing. But then after that, broadly, we see 4 copies of the same decision. I'm not convinced that the decisions get more interesting or more dramatic or push the story towards the conclusion. They just happen to be on the route, right? They could have been in any order. Doesn't matter if we do the multivitamin first, then the cough medicine, then the petroleum jelly or whatever. So that pacing wise is a bit flat. And then that end of the game where you're just given a wall of text that tells you what would have happened in the third act if we had experienced it.
Yeah, it's so overall I think I agree with you. The ending definitely does feel like quite sudden. I'm not too worried about the wall of text ending. We can sort of see that as, you know, it's a cutscene, right? We're not expecting fully rendered like AAA 3D sort of cutscenes in this. So some scrolling text over a black background. There's maybe a bit more they could have done with it, but as a closing cutscene, it works okay. It does feel like it comes a bit suddenly, like we've got day one, day two, and then bam, ending right away. And you're right, the build up at the start is really really good. Some of the animations of the reply email or the cracker program or welcome.exe or whatever is drag out a little bit, but broadly the pacing is quite good. Would you say there is some ascendant pacing?
Yeah, I would say some. Right?
Yeah, like we
beginning
start...
of the game definitely tees up the ascending pacing, and we do get to an end point, even if I wouldn't necessarily call it a clear final peak.
Yeah, in a way, it feels like here we go. So yeah, revealing the truth almost feels like a clearer final peak than listening to some sort of Morse code and trying to put in like a code to progress the story in a way. Like that doesn't feel like as dramatic. If it was a case of like you say, the having to juggle the emails to sort of maintain or to not be too suspicious while trying to desperately hunt for this code so that we can reveal the truth, that would have a lot more dramatic tension to it. Whereas as it is, we're just sort of poking around, unsure what we're doing, find the code, and then finish. So
yeah,
I think the final peak is... I mean, they kind of have it, but I don't think they're quite there. So I would say maybe between a satisfactory and a good.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. I think maybe for the sort of thing that would have helped drill in that pacing or help reinforce it would be, let's imagine that these emails require attachments, and there's the generic condolence letter that you can attach, and there's the generic get off my back letter that you can attach. And if you go into the terminal, you can start putting in the extra files that you find as things you could attach. Because now the thing with Adam is, you go do some gameplay, it changes what you can attach to your email, and what you send as your email attachments starts feeding back into the story choices. But the relevant thing for pacing there is that you start with, here are 2 things you can attach. They're not very interesting. You go poke around a bit. Now there are 3 things you can attach, 4 things, 5 things. And the idea of sending the shopping list to someone...
As much as I enjoy bouncing around ideas for how we could improve this, we probably should move on. So
techniques is the next step.
I would straight up say let's start with a good, like, successful use of more than one game writing technique. We have the emails that come in. We have the sort of scrolling sort of text epilogue. Both of those work really, really well to tell the story. Would you say the mechanics support the theme? And in fact, hang on, let's go back a bit further. What is the theme of this game that we're playing? What fable have they based this on?
So they've said in their notes that it's based on the Panther and the Shepherds.
So the moral of that story is all about basically revenge coming back to those that deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Would you say the mechanics of this game emphasize that theme?
I think so. Like, in the sense that the personal people who deserve the revenge here are the company, VitaNovo.
That's the story. Are the mechanics of play, do they emphasize that thing? Are we... And I would say kind of... Like, again, there aren't enough mechanics for that to be the case. So I don't know if it quite hits the excellent for techniques, but I do think it hits the good quite solidly.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. We've got one last bit on the mark scheme, which is feedback. So I'll present what their feedback was and what they responded to it with. They said that a core part of the received feedback concerned the gameplay itself. For a good period of development, there were very little mechanics, only an email system that displayed dialogue. In order to address this, they added the terminal exploration mechanic and various files and minigames. This added a level of interactivity and depth to the game, made it more engaging.
So I'm curious.
It is certainly true.
I'm curious what you mean by various minigames, because I mean we explored pretty much every file on the terminal, and I didn't see anything else other than that. But I mean, as we've already said, if there wasn't the terminal sort of the mini game or feature, there wouldn't really be any gameplay to this. So I will agree, adding that massively improved the amount of gameplay that they have.
Yeah. They also say additional feedback noted the dialogue and story options should have more emphasis on moral decisions. So they tried to pose moral dilemmas in their decisions.
Now that is interesting, because that I don't think has worked as well as they would have hoped. Because let's take this example, or this choice as an example. What's there? You can see they're sort of going for a moral element here, like, you know, are we empathetic? Are we rude? But what's the moral dimension to this? Why would we pick I'm going to be rude when we can effectively just give them a bunch of free money?
Yes. There's not actually a tension here between, you know, there's the moral thing to do that you want to do because it's moral, and there's the immoral thing to do because there's some other reason to do that.
Because it's funny. And that's the thing, right? If it was a case of, again, sort of Papers, Please kind of vibes, where maybe some of these people are lying to get all of this free money that you're giving out, then you've got to, you know, you have to scrutinize people. Is this person really suffering from side effects, or are they just, and then you've got to make that sort of choice. And again, there might be a right or a wrong answer, or it might be a case of, you know what, the company that I'm working for is evil. I'm just going to hand out the free money anyway, regardless. So I can see what they were going for. And let's again wind it back a little bit. The climactic choice, or the big choice, the important choice, the interesting choice with Adam, again, kind of has a moral dimension to it. Do we believe this person who claims to be a whistleblower? Do we ignore them and keep our head down and our nose clean? But again, it's not really sort of set up particularly well. I think, again, sort of with the pacing, they could have done a little bit more to sort of drip feed that over time, so we get the sense that Adam is somebody that maybe we should trust, or that things are going a bit more wrong than the company's letting on.
Yeah, I even wondered whether or not, if it is over multiple days, that we hear about Adam from the company on the first day, and so don't pay attention to this guy, he's making up lies about us, and then Adam says, no, these aren't lies, it's really a serious problem, and you're hearing both sides.
Yeah, so I think overall the changes have, some of the changes have had, yeah, again, some success, but maybe not as much success as they were hoping for, and some of them haven't quite had the impact that they were hoping for. So it feels like this is maybe between sort of a pass and a satisfactory again. So somewhere between limited success and somewhat successful.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well.
Okie doke. Which brings us to the end of this game. Let's... in fact, actually, no, before we do that, have we got any closing thoughts for this game? So aesthetically, I really, really like it. I like the story that they are telling. It's kind of an interesting one to sort of go through from both sides. I think it would be nice if they expanded on some of like the gameplay ideas that maybe we suggested. And in fact, I really do think they could like carry this game on and keep developing it further, which I would really like to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our next game. All right, and our next game is The Tiger and the Hunters. Sorry. So this game was the work of just one person, so we're going to be bearing that in mind as we go through it. Speaking of which, let's go through it. Nice title screen, got some lovely sort of music in the background, nice little sort of diorama of, I assume, the game that we're going to be playing, and we've got a how to play screen. So E to interact, spacebar to progress dialogue. Don't know why they couldn't have been the same button, but all right. 1, 2, or 3 to pick your choice. Hints for what to do next are shown in the top left. We always like a good hint. Try to find all 5 endings, and we can even see which endings we've got. That's a really, really nice touch. Sort of brings in that kind of collection dynamic of, can you get all of the endings?
Particularly for the work of one person, you know, that's a nice thing to see.
I don't seem to be able to actually enter my name into the enter name field. Bit of a shame, but oh well.
Fair enough.
Starting. We are new in town. Speak to the mayor. You've got a good hat. You must be the mayor. You must be. Sure am.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sitting on Mounted Side. I am Sir Grave M. Estake.
Okay.
Nominative determinism in action. It's nice to meet you. Here at Sitting on Mountainside, we all depend on each other to ensure a simple and fulfilled life. I have 2 different tools for you, but you may only pick one. Which would you prefer? Axe or knife? Now, I would say those are similar-ish tools. Obviously used for different purposes, but in terms of
I feel like
choice and agency,
the axe can be used for a few things, and the knife can be used for fewer things.
yeah. But so, in terms of pure, I'm approaching this as a game and I'm playing a game. Axe and knife have similar connotations. Let's say if it was, sword or plow, then you can sort of say, aha, there's a decision to be made here. This decision that I'm kind of making at random though, because I don't know what either of these things do, or why I would want to pick them. Let's pick axe.
So I'm suggesting that I'm calculating, but the axe has more utility.
Well, not even that. It's just we don't know what either of them will do or what the consequences are, so we don't have any information to make a choice or a calculation.
Yeah.
Meet with the hunting leader. Hunter hunted. They had no choice when they were named. He'll probably be at the clearing in the woods.
Unless this culture has an interesting naming tradition where your name is given to you based on what you do.
He's so nice they named him twice. I'm Hunter Hunted. I'm in charge of hunting for Sitting on Mountainside. Glad you could join our team. Sure, me too. You'll get used. So again, like sort of managing agency, right? I don't know if these different dialogues are having any impact, but the fact that it's not just a wall of text and they break it up with a decision for us to make, even if it's a false choice, is good. There have been reports of unusual activity in this here forest, Scare-E Woods. I've never known a forest to have a middle name. Dead animals have been appearing, and not because of us. That's worrying. It's not much to worry about, but I ask that you keep an eye out for them, and if you spot any, let me know. Whatever's happening, it's diminishing our food supply. Familiar surroundings, go and explore the forest. See you around. Okay, luckily it's not an enormous forest, but let's explore. Let me know if you spot any dead animals. Oh, there's something. Let's investigate. Because, I mean, we can tell him after we investigate, right?
Might as well go back with the results of an investigation.
Using the handle of your axe, you prodded the deer. Oop, suddenly
So it does reference something.
Now, interestingly, I don't have to pick a dialogue option. I can just run away. What do you think? Should we... If I do this, I've got a head start. There we go. Run. Doesn't seem to be chasing us.
Yeah. That one there could potentially have been a diegetic choice.
Yeah. Or yeah, had a bit more consequence, like it coming after us. And again, like animation is hard, but even if it just sort of slowly followed us, that would probably be a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah, it doesn't need a proper walk cycle. It just needs to slide.
Tell me where it was, and I'll meet you. You can see it from here, mate. It's just there. Ooh. Or that, or just teleport over. That works fine. The tiger is still here, but it seems to be trapped. Oh, maybe that's why it didn't chase us. So, do we save the tiger? Do we leave it to die? Do we kill the tiger?
The tiger doesn't seem to have done anything wrong, other than maybe hunt some animals.
Approach it slowly, hand reached out, the tiger watches you, starts moving, eventually you manage to release the tiger. So again, this could be done like a little bit more diegetically, like making us walk out, because all the structure for that is here, right? We just walk over and press E on the bush.
Yeah.
Okay, the tiger's run off. It's left us alone because of that. Glad you came to live here. Now this poor deer won't go to waste. So we've got good ending. So we picked the axe. What effect did that have on the story?
One of the later dialogues happened to say, you use the axe to do the thing, but I don't know whether or not the alternative playthrough would have, you poke it with the knife, instead of poke it with the axe.
Let's find out. Oh, we've got a knife now. So I think almost all of the choices we make in dialogue don't have an impact. We can just stay perfectly silent and stoic. Just going to say nothing. It'll be a first-person shooter character. It's completely silent. Look, go find deer. We're going to prod it with a knife now. Let's try and fight it. Start brandishing and jabbing the knife. The knife simply is okay. So if we'd have had an axe, maybe would have been okay. Weakling ending. Now I don't think it's weakling if we just have a knife and not an axe.
Mm.
Then again, maybe we'll get the same ending if we pick the axe. There's a cat over here. Hello, kitty. Okay, so while I'm going through and trying to collect all of the endings, how we start talking about the marks criteria?
Yeah, so presentation, graphics, audio, information design. We said on the title screen, very appealing graphics, consistent, it looks really nice. Audio, I would say, is also appealing and consistent.
Yep, they've gone to some effort to sort of, replace the font, replace the sort of default dialogue boxes, to add some sound effects when we pick an option. Might be nice if they had, mixed up the audio sort of to account for the drama of a particular scene. So we've got like this lovely relaxing music. Maybe when a tiger appears, we get a bit of a musical sting.
What do you think of information design then?
I think the information design is pretty good. There isn't a huge amount of information to display, but we've got this little hint in the top left that tells us what we're doing. We've got this prompt that shows up when we have something to interact with. Like, I think all of the information that we need is very clearly on display.
I think so. I think the one thing I would say might be missing is it'd be nice for those dialogue boxes to have 1 in brackets run, 2 in brackets fight, or something, just because we only knew about what the interactions were from checking it on the
That's a point. If we hadn't looked at that menu, we actually would have been stuck for quite a while trying to figure that out, wouldn't we? Oh,
I imagine we would have tried on it and
interesting.
For a while.
So the choice between an axe and a knife means if we have a knife, we just lose, and if we have an axe, then we have to run away anyway.
Right. Okay.
So again, managing agency through sort of false choices, but I guess sort of on multiple playthroughs, as that becomes more apparent, it becomes a little bit more, not immersion breaking, but sort of a little bit more like you don't feel like you had like a decent amount of agency.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there was a path you could have taken where you take out your weapon and you show some prestigious skill and defeat the tiger.
Oh right, I keep trying to press E to progress the dialogue, but it's space. So we've got 2 of the endings. There's 2 left. So I guess leave it to die is maybe going to be another one. Preferring not to act to save your guilty conscience, you leave the tiger. Agreeing with your decision, the hunting leader takes a moment to taunt the tiger. Oh, now we go and talk to the mayor, see what happens. I don't think this is going to go well for the hunting leader. Interesting. Do we tell him that there was a tiger, or do we just say, you know what, this place is lovely? Is that a tiger? Maybe. It has escaped before you can do anything else. He descends on us and the mayor. Why does he descend on the mayor? The mayor didn't do anything. You left the tiger to die of thirst. The hunting leader taunting it, tortured the poor animal. So we've got good ending, weakling ending, massacre ending. We were talking about presentation still. What do you think about presentation? Sort of a satisfactory would be workable, good would be professional, excellent would be impactful.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that we're either at the good level or between satisfactory and good. I think almost complete. I had one small gripe, but it's a minor thing.
Yeah, I think it probably hits the good level.
Yeah.
Meaningful play. Now, there's not a lot of mechanics and play. We're mostly walking around finding the next dialogue to progress the story. We're not doing a lot sort of within the game world. There's a little bit of like exploration, like can you find the deer? Although it's kind of interesting that they put it in a spot that we already had to walk past. They could have done something with, like a blood trail that you have to follow. It wouldn't take a lot more effort and would give like at least a little bit more kind of sort of mechanics and exploration. As it is, it's sort of find a thing to press E on the thing, find the next thing to press E on. So gameplay wise, again, even though it's the work of one person, it is still on the simpler side. I would say probably sort of around the satisfactory level. It's sort of a simpler game, fewer mechanics.
Yeah, usable controls, some minor bugs. I think the only bug that's we've really spotted is that you can't name yourself, and that's fine. Good. What about the story engine then?
So game world to story. Again, there's not a lot of sort of what we'd call gameplay in a prototype such as this, other than, again, this kind of exploration mechanic. But that doesn't really impact the story. It's not like we can find the deer or not find the deer, or go and talk to somebody else rather than the mayor, because we have to do things in a very precise order to sort of keep things moving. So kind of for game world to story, it feels like it might sort of be at the poor level, because there's support for these things, but it's not actually impacting the story that we're getting. The change to the story all happens through sort of the dialogue choices, which is sort of story impacting the game, or story impacting the story, I suppose. Story impacting the game, likewise, it doesn't really change anything. It's not like if we make this decision, actually no, it does change a little bit, because if we blah blah blah, so we can, if we just say we're going to tell the hunting leader, then we skip a bit of dialogue. But if, for example, we try and fight the tiger, then we either have to run and fight. It's what's the word? It's kind of a minimal impact. It's like, do we skip straight to having to go and see a person? Again, like they could have made this a bit more sort of clearer by having it be a case of, now you have to go and do X versus go and do Y based on the choice that you make, or even having the tiger sort of chase very slowly after you could have been an element of gameplay.
Yes, that's the core thing here, right? Like,
and in fact,
most of the things that are happening here are interacting with the narrative, but not really interacting with the game system.
Yeah, agreed. It feels like there's definitely support for it there. Like you could very easily sort of change the objective that you're given based on the story choice you make, and they kind of do that in certain places, or rather, they skip over a bit of dialogue. So if we find the deer and investigate it ourselves, the tiger appears immediately. If we find the deer and go to the hunter, the tiger appears later. So there's some examples of it, but they are very, very sparse. So it feels like story to game world is probably a pass. Game world to story is probably, unfortunately, sort of down at the poor.
Yeah.
Richness of choices. What do we think about the choices in this game?
So there are 2 points where you make decisions, in the sense that there's this one, whether you save the tiger or don't save the tiger, and there's potentially the run or fight decision. Those, I think, are the meaningful ones. Technically, you start with picking axe or knife, which does have ramifications later, but doesn't have. It's not obvious what the choices, what the reasons for those choices are.
Yeah, so I think the sort of ultimate choice, the one that sort of determines your ending for the most part, or save the tiger, kill the tiger, is the most interesting choice. I think they could do more to frame it and set it up as an interesting choice. So rather than just, oh, there's a tiger, do you want to kill it or not? Add a little bit more dialogue to the hunter or the mayor saying, like, what are the consequences of this going to be? Like, why would we want to just set it free and into the wilderness? Why would we want to like immediately kill it? Why would we want to taunt it? There's a few things, or even rather than setting up like the choice and the consequences, setting up our character more. Like, sure, we might want to taunt the tiger before killing it if we're a bad person, but in which case we need more setting that up or more reason to role play that as a player.
Yeah.
In terms of
the hunter might go, oh, I want to put that tiger's head on my wall as a trophy or something.
Yeah, or introduce another character, or have the mayor be, the mayor thinks we shouldn't kill a poor defenseless animal. The hunter thinks we should. Now your choice is not just what do we do with the tiger, but which of these people are you going to agree with, at the cost of disappointing the other one, perhaps. Whereas this choice, like between the axe and the knife, doesn't feel very meaningful. The agency around this one almost feels a little bit problematic. Although I would say that's countered with what I said before about like these little managed agency sort of conversation snippets. I think maybe a bit more could be done with them, again, to sort of emphasize the character. But the fact that they break up some of these long dialogues with little mini choices, that I think is really good.
Yeah, so would we say it meets a number of interesting choices?
I am not sure that it would.
Yeah, interestingly, the good says number of interesting choices and attempts to manage player agency. We've got some of that managing player agency, maybe not so much of the interestingness of the choices, and pass goes down to some choices but only a few are interesting. We almost have some choices but only a few are interesting and attempts to manage player agency.
Yeah, so to me this one feels like it's probably just between a pass and a satisfactory, because again there's a bit of a lack of choices and only one of them is really sort of particularly interesting. But as we've said, they do have some like elements of managing agency, like the paths to lead us where they want us to go. They sort of constrain the area of the forest to make sure that we don't just blunder off into nowhere to find before finding the deer. Like they've done a few different bits and pieces. Some of the bits and pieces are maybe sort of verging on problematic, but I think that we can overlook that because it's the work of a single person. Like, for example, we get the choice to run from the tiger or fight the tiger, but we can just run off without even picking a dialogue.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about the pacing then?
Do we feel that things escalate? I think
we do approach an ending, but I think that there's a little bit of a weird thing happening with the pacing where the ending comes about suddenly. Like, I don't think we actually get a build up to the ending.
Sort of narratively, all of the things escalate. You're new in town, talk to the person, talk to this other person, there's a mystery, animals have been showing up dead. We find an animal that's shown up dead. Oh my god, there's a tiger, and then dramatic choice at the end. There's definitely dramatic pacing. I think they could have emphasized it a lot more with, again, like changing the music as we go. So, like, oh my god, there's a tiger. Like, hard cut to a different sort of like soundtrack, dramatic music, really emphasize that kind of pacing. As it is, I think there's definitely still some ascendant pacing. Would we say there's a clear final peak?
Maybe not. It's hard to say because the connection with the gameplay here is that we choose a dialogue option that says we would like to kill the tiger, and that doesn't quite feel like it's a dramatic end. Whereas, with more scope of the game, if we were actually fighting the tiger, when we killed it, it would certainly feel like the end of the game.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think we certainly say some ascending pacing.
Yeah, but maybe doesn't quite reach all the way to the climactic ending.
Yeah,
Storytelling techniques. It feels like they've got a primary technique, which is to say dialogue. Do they have any techniques beyond that?
well, usually in a game that's set up like this, the generous one is environmental storytelling. Is it true that walking around meaningfully impacts what you know about the mystery? And I'm not sure it does.
No. Again, like maybe they
find things in places, but
like for example, yeah, we walked
being built next to the den of the tiger or something would be some amount of environmental storytelling.
Yeah, or even, we walk through the forest, we say, speak to the hunter, and he says, I've been finding all of these dead animals. They could have sort of put a few dead animals between us and the hunter, so as we walk, we go, there's a lot of dead deer here, I wonder what's up with that. And then as we talk, it's like it gets sort of revealed more and more. So it feels like, I would say, it's satisfactory. They fully and successfully used one game writing technique.
Yeah.
Before we move on to feedback, so I've got 4 out of the 5 endings. Do they mention in their game notes what the other one is?
Which endings have you got? So the endings come from, there are 3 endings associated with kill, save, and leave the tiger. And there are 2 endings associated with the if you're fighting the tiger, do you have the axe or the knife? So
that's interesting, because I fought the tiger with an axe and it just left me to run away and talk to the hunter. So I don't think we unlocked that ending, even if that was the case. Okay, but all right, let's move on and go to feedback.
Yeah, so feedback might be problematic here. The feedback that the student has given us says they were having trouble coming up with the idea for a story. They talked to us to brainstorm some ideas, and this helped them have some ideas. And then they were also advised to just start creating things to sort of spark some inspiration that will lead to a story. And so they started creating some things, and that led them to this story.
Okay, but did they come back to us and talk about the idea they had afterwards?
No.
Okay, so to me that sounds like the feedback, like they didn't come and get feedback on the idea that they actually ended up creating. So we're always happy to bounce around ideas to get people started, but it is really important that they then come and talk to us to get some feedback on the idea that they settle on. So from the sounds of it, it unfortunately feels sort of like an absent.
Yeah, I think that's right. Feedback was not reported or addressed. There's no serious attempt to make changes. As far as we can tell from what they've told us there, they didn't seek feedback once they had an idea to get feedback on. Okay,
which brings us to the end of this game. So let's move on to the next one. All right, and our next game is The Tiger's Tale. So I believe this one is also the work of just a single person. Again, we'll bear that in mind as we go. No title screen with this one. We're straight into the action, so to speak. And we've got a nice little diegetic tutorial or info board. WASD to move, space to jump, shift to sprint, control to crouch. I wonder if crouching will actually come in useful, or if that's just something that was part of this asset pack. Hold the right click to move the camera. Press E in front of someone to talk to them. Okay, so controls are relatively smooth. I think maybe they could have just sort of had it default to be sprinting all the time just to make it a little bit easier, but that's not too bad. So we don't have a prompt or anything to talk to this person, but they are right out of our gate. So again, sort of nice little bit of managed agency there, right? There's this fence all the way around here, so we have to come out here, and the first thing we're probably going to do is speak to this person. Thank God you're here. We're having some major tiger problems. I think any tiger problem is a major tiger problem. Tell me what the problem is. He already said it's a tiger problem. We had a tiger trapped in a pit, but it escaped, and now our lives are in danger. We need your help deciding what to do. Why do you need my help? Please talk to as many people as you can to understand what happened. Once you've spoken to everyone, speak to the leader in the stone circle and make your decision. Before I forget, you might want to find the tiger and hear his side of the story as well. Okie doke.
Our twin brother.
So this is the officer. The tiger is nothing but trouble. Should have been dealt with the moment it got loose. What are you here for? Supporting that beast or helping us end the threat? So we're kind of already immediately asked to sort of make a decision about what we want to do, but we haven't had a chance to go and speak to everyone or the tiger yet. So, you know what? Let's say I think the tiger deserves a chance to explain itself. The thing, the predator, it doesn't care about chances. It cares about power. I don't know about that. It's sometimes understanding a threat is the best way to deal with it. The only understanding I need is that it is a threat. Go to the cave and see for yourself how dangerous it is.
So it's interesting that the interactions here are the officer tells you what answer he thinks is the right answer, and then asks you what answer do you think is the right answer.
Yeah. So is this the tiger that's in the pit, or is this just a tiger? Oh no, he was in a pit, but then he escaped. I see.
Pit, yeah. And then came
the little
the
detective.
campfire.
Are we a detective? I don't know if detectives have the authority to arrest tigers. You come to blame me for everything. I don't know what everything is yet. Yes, tell me a thing. Those shepherds, half of them wanted me dead, the other half threw scraps at me like I was a stray. If they truly cared, they would have worked together to free me, not left me to rot. Okie doke. So again, good that there's this officer here to sort of say, oh yeah, go and talk to the tiger in the cave behind me, because I absolutely would not have realised there was a cave with a tiger in it back there if he hadn't.
Yeah.
Stone circle, so that's the leader, so we talk to him once we've decided what to do. There's a river. Let's go and jump over these rocks. Oh no, I fell in the river. Sorry, luckily I think it only just comes up to our nose, so we can just
convenient depth, yeah.
Yeah, which I know this is really minor, but I actually really like this sort of like really simple approach to just having a river. So you've got like blue mesh without a collider that we can just walk through.
Yeah.
But it still feels like it's a river. It's a bit silly that we can just run down it, but I kind of like that. Who are you? Hello. You don't seem to be interactable. You're just having a lovely time. Right. Bye.
Are the horses interactable?
The horses, that's a great question. Horse farmer. The tiger's been a real problem. I've got 2 of my best horses. Can't bring myself to see it hurt. There has to be another way. You're right. Maybe there's a way to do something about it peacefully. Maybe if we leave food far out from the village, it'll find a new place to hunt. Probably something meaty. Better eat that than my horses. Okay. Can we go talk to a horse? No, we can't talk to a horse.
I was hoping the horse would go, hey, the farmer said 2 of my best horses were eaten? That's very unfair. I'm the best.
Can we talk? What are you doing? Just hiding behind a rock. Can't seem... Oh, she is hiding behind a rock. Nobody can find out. I can see you. Why are you hiding from the villagers? Yeah, she was the one that let the tiger escape. Okie doke. So I'm a bit surprised that we can't speak to this person. Oh, no, there we go. A little bit. So again, like the information design of like when we're in the talking zone, maybe not super apparent, but hey there, lovely day, isn't it? I was just thinking about how nice it'd be to carve a tiger statue. Yeah, sure. You are very carefree. So we've got 3 people on this side of the river who are like, yeah, save the tiger, and we've got 1 person on that side of the river who's like, I don't like tigers. Is there anyone else? Should we explore over here? Or do we think we've learned enough to go and make our decision?
I think we've spoken to all of the people, so I think we have to do the decision next.
I'm so tempted to throw myself off the side of this mountain and into the void, but...
I was thinking the same, but we have to do that on the second playthrough.
Yep. Let's go. Thanks to your efforts, I've decided to let... Oh, okay, so we don't come to you to make our decision. We've already made our decision by talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
You all done talking to people, no or yes? Would saying no have a meaningful impact if we hadn't already... Like, if we speak to him and he's made his decision, if we go and speak to some other people and choose different dialogues, would that have an impact, I wonder? We've made a decision. End. We don't seem to be able to progress through this, though.
This presumably is the final scene.
Okay, it's just the end, not that. So
Yeah.
we've got effectively a little cutscene, all the villagers together, Tiger's here too. Oh.
Oh.
I can still run around though. Can I talk to like the tiger or anyone while I'm here? No.
No, we just keep hearing from the...
Okay, it's just the farm leader. Alright. Okay, I'll run off into the sunset, and then I'll probably force close the game and start it again.
Yeah.
Oh.
And as you do, we will start paying attention to the presentation. Graphics, audio, and information design.
Yep, and I'm going to try and go through a different set of options this time, just to see the other branches. So yeah, aesthetically, it's nice. All of the assets work well together. The music is mostly fitting. Again, it would be nice if it maybe changed up a little bit, sort of when we got the like 2 different points or something like that. Like, you know, sound effects sort of as we jump or run, like little bits of polish like that. But otherwise, everything that they've got works pretty well together. In terms of the information design, the only sort of major thing that I think is lacking is, yeah, like highlighting when we can actually talk to somebody, just to make sure we're in the right spot.
Yeah, like if the interaction radius was really quite generous, it would probably be okay. But if you have to get close and you can't quite tell if you've got close enough, but yes, it also just adds that polish to bring up a pop-up or something to say you can talk now. The world is relatively sparse, so you can kind of guess where all the interactions are. But you know, there's a few places where if we had a pop-up that says this thing is interactable, you'd also learn this thing isn't interactable. You know, you can't go and kick the rock next to you because there's no interaction for that.
Yeah. So would you say, you know, satisfactory, good? Like, are these workable? Are they professional? I would say maybe between the two.
I was thinking between the two. Yeah.
Like, there's maybe a lack of like some like extra sound effects, like when we choose dialogue choices, or like tiny bits of polish like that. But for the most part, like it's nicely put together. Everything works quite well. On to meaningful play. How much play is there? So we've got some freedom to go around and sort of speak to different people, but there's not much we're doing beyond that.
Yeah.
And it feels like the way they've set some of this up, it is kind of ripe for, you know, this person's grumpy at the tiger, but they'll change their mind if you go and do this thing for me. And it could be like a really minor thing, like go and tell somebody else, I don't know, that they fancy them, or go and pick me 3 flowers, or like very sort of like minimal bits of gameplay, but just to incorporate it so that it isn't just a reading a book with extra steps, so to speak.
Yeah, there's that boat there. You can imagine someone says, "I don't want to get my feet wet. Bring me the boat."
Yeah, exactly. So as it is, it's what's the word? It's playable. Like I'm running around and doing stuff. What would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with playable, which puts in the satisfactory range. Simpler game with fewer mechanics, usable controls, may have some minor bugs. I don't think we've seen many bugs, unless you claim you're clipping through people and things as being minor. But
or you know what? Even just if we drowned when we touched the water and we actually had to jump across, that would probably be very frustrating with some of these controls. But that would be more gameplay. But yeah, okay. So moving on to story engine. Does the game world impact the story? Now again, there's kind of disconnect between like what do we mean by game world, what do we mean by story? Because it feels like talking to the villagers and the tiger, these are like sort of story moments within like the game world, but clicking on a dialogue box isn't really what we mean when we say sort of like the game world impacting it. So kind of as a result, I would say there's probably not many moments where the game world affects the story. Like the order in which we go and speak to people is kind of the only element of gameplay that we've got. And that doesn't have an impact on the story. It's only what we say to them when we're speaking to them. And kind of in the same way, the gameplay decisions that we make, the story decisions we make, don't have any impact on gameplay. It's not like we talk to everyone on this side of the river, we make friends with them, and then they say, you know what, you seem alright. We will build you a bridge so that you can get over to the other side of the game world. Or something like that. If
you knew that bridge to be able to access other dialogue options, then you'd have some sense of interaction there. So are we probably saying that there's some support for story elements in the game, but the game world has no real impact on the story?
Yeah, I think for both, really.
Yeah, possibly the other way around as well. What about agency then? What choices do you feel like you're making?
Well, it feels like we're making one choice multiple times. The one choice is violence or peace, which is an interesting choice. But every person we're talking to, we're making that same choice. And much like even games like Mass Effect or big AAA RPGs, I do find myself asking, why don't you just ask me that question once at the start of the game, and then everything else is a cutscene,
It should be the case that once we've picked something, we learn some information that gives us a reasonable reason to want to change our mind. Do you feel like at any point you are convinced of changing your opinion?
Not really, because again, much like games like Mass Effect, the ending is only interesting if you fully commit to one or the other.
Yeah.
Now, again, sort of tying back into sort of like gameplay or story engine kind of bits and bobs, if there was a reason to lie to people, that might be kind of interesting. Like, I've got to convince the officer that actually, no, I'm totally on his side about this. Hey, that reminds me, old buddy, old pal, where did you put the key to the tiger's cage? Like, that kind of a thing. And then, again, you've got some more interesting choices of, do I lie to this person to get my own way? And it's a different choice rather than making the same one sort of repeatedly. So again, it feels kind of like a pass that there are a number of different choices, but only kind of a few, and really in this case only sort of one of them is interesting.
Yeah, I think I agree that there's one interesting
to be able to talk to. Oh, there we go. Interesting. So I was gonna say it'd be really nice if this cutscene, didn't have the tiger in it, because we've chased the tiger away. So like the sort of ending cutscene doesn't really sort of change so again, the story hasn't changed as a result of anything we've done in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the dialogue changed. He said we're going to chase it away, but the actual ending doesn't, which is a little bit of a shame. Pacing. What do we think of the pacing?
I think we've probably got potentially some unclear or flat pacing. It is true that we do get towards a decision at the end, but there's this real sense of just wandering around for some time, like I don't know, like most of the gameplay here, it doesn't feel like it matters who you go and see, and if you go and see them at all, and which order you go and see them in.
I completely agree. I think the fact that we can sort of run around and talk to anyone at any point is kind of like what makes it interesting, but by the same token, it means that the pacing is like there's no clear escalation. It's not like we speak to people who are, you know, have one point of view and then things escalate and, you know, conflict emerges and tension emerges, and then, you know, we hear all of these rumors about the tiger, but then at the end we get to speak to the tiger for ourselves because the tiger's just there. We can go and speak to them first. So, and also the final sort of climactic decision where we sort of go to the leader and present our case. The decision's already been made. We go to him and he says, you've gone and spoken to some people, but I've made my decision and this is what we're going to do. So it doesn't really have that climax either, unfortunately. So it's overall, it does end up feeling quite flat, which puts it sort of at the pass level.
There's a weird conflict here where in the interaction with the leader, the game moves on without you, in a sense. Like, your actions don't seem to have as much agency as you would hope them to. And then the opposite is kind of true in other places where the rest of the game just waits for you. Nothing happens until you push it forward, which, you know, makes sense from a gameplay point of view. But you could totally imagine you just go and, you know, build a hut in the corner and, you know, grow old and retire, and then you deal with the tiger later, and the game doesn't care very much. Shows that sort of flat pacing.
Okay, so that still hits the pass level because there's been an attempt to control the pacing. We have like sort of first part and then decision, but it's maybe not sort of been as effective as that I hoped. Storytelling techniques, what do we think? I would say dialogue, pretty effective. We can go and speak to a whole bunch of different people, get a whole bunch of different sort of perspectives, different bits of information. That bit works quite well. We also have a sort of ending cutscene. The time of day shifts, the camera shifts, everyone is gathered in the middle. But because it doesn't really sort of change to reflect the decision that's been made, I would say it's not been fully successful. So it feels like maybe between a satisfactory and a good there, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. So then it brings us to feedback. So what they've said, the feedback, received feedback for the diversity of the characters' opinions and attitudes. There should be a range of opinions to make each interaction feel unique and important. Initially only had farmers to interact with, talking about the crops being destroyed, the livestock killed, and so on. And in response, added some more NPCs to talk to, including the army officer who was aggressive, and the carefree man who had the light-hearted view on the situation. In the original Panther and Shepherd's Tale, the only people were shepherds. They determined that it would be helpful to go further and add non-shepherd people. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's had a sort of an overall positive impact on the story that they're telling. It hasn't had a tremendous impact on the gameplay, because again, they could have taken it a little bit further and done something with, you know, there's different factions in the village, there's pro-tiger and anti-tiger, and they could have, not easily, but they could have made a game around the idea of mollifying whichever faction that is opposing you, right? You've effectively got to not just go to people and sort of listen and then pick one of two dialogue options, but to actively change their minds somehow, whether that's through exploring a dialogue tree or some little sort of like, you know, mini game or something like a fetch quest or things like that. But
yeah, it could be that if you spoke to the tiger first, you could then show the villagers, oh look, here's a picture of the tiger and he's hurt and weak and not a threat or something.
But with all that said, I think it's had a positive impact on the game overall. Like, if it was just you go and speak to people who all hate the tiger and then you have to make a decision, the context around that choice becomes sort of a lot less interesting.
Yeah. So would we agree that changes have been somewhat successful, or is it more or less than somewhat?
I would say somewhat sounds about fair. Is there any other feedback that they mentioned for this?
No, that's all they gave.
Okay, in which case, yeah, I think that's sort of where it sits. And
okay.
Yeah, so with that in mind, I was going to say let's move on to our next game, but this is our last game for this batch. So thank you very, very much for watching, and we will see you again soon for another video.